Welcome all to this webinar on Does eSign make sense for liabilities departments at banks? I'm Aditya, Head of Marketing at Leegality, joined by Shubhesh, who handles product marketing at Leegality. 99% of you are from banks, and I presume from liabilities departments. So welcome. Few quick house rules before we begin. One, the core webinar will take about 30 to 35 minutes to complete. This will also include multiple product demos and feature demos that we will take you through to help explain some of the concepts. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask in the Q&A box. This helps us take up questions during the webinar if they're connected in any way to what we're saying. And in case you want to ask your question verbally, please wait till the end of the webinar. We'll be throwing the floor open for an open Q&A. And finally, before we begin, we will be sending across a recording. So let's begin. So there's a major trend in India today to digitize paperwork processes. KYC payments and other processes are traditionally for the last few years being digital, and over the last 2-3 years, digitization of paperwork processes has also picked up. Unfortunately, this traction has only been seen on the loan side of banks and not really on the liability side, right? Loan divisions across the country are accelerating with digital products and touting paperless paperwork as a big differentiator. Everywhere you look, you are bombarded with this messaging: paperless, fast, 2-minute loans and more. And at the heart of this is essentially digital paperwork, right? We've worked with many banks on this journey, making paperless documentation the norm on the loan side across multiple verticals and use cases. So banks are seeing a significant return on their investment from this process, right? For example, Federal Bank for some of its lending verticals saw double the productivity at a branch level. That is, a branch could do 2 times the number of loans after legality than before. Yes Bank managed to create digital experiences for about 70% of wholesale retail lending paperwork. SBI cards saw 25% of that paperwork actually happening outside banking hours, which means that actual banking operations were happening while their staff was asleep, while their branch was not open, right? Imagine core banking processes running in the background at the convenience of your customer without really needing you to keep your operations running. And these banks are achieving this via Leegality, an end-to-end platform for banks to digitize their paperwork processes in a fast, easy, and compliant way. Essentially, all the tools you need in one unified platform, right? So half of this audience is familiar with Leegality because your loan side verticals use us extensively. This webinar is about how we can do that for liability side as well, right? In the next 6 to 18 months, liabilities divisions that digitize paperwork processes will be ahead of the curve. By nature, you will be trendsetters creating a new type of banking experience, right? And this shift will be a major competitive advantage. Because see, if you wait 18 or 24 months, when the early adopters have gone digital, then it will no longer be a competitive advantage. It will just be a must-have for you to keep up. So the end destination ultimately is digitizing your paperwork processes. The only real question is timing, right? Do you get in now where you can reap a huge competitive advantage because very few liability side divisions are really diving into this? Or do you do it later when you have to do it just to keep up, right? So let's dive into like how this works. What are the main objections to digitizing paperwork on the liability side, and how we can actually overcome those objections, right? But before that, 2 important things to help make the context even clearer. First things first, when we talk about liability side paperwork, we mean any kind of paperwork that you do on the liability side, from CASA forms to locker agreements to escrow account opening forms. I know there's about 100 different forms on the liability side. All by default can actually happen via a digital process, right? Before I move on, there's a small poll on your screen. Are you planning to digitize your liability side paperwork? 3 options. You can answer it at your leisure. In this webinar, we will be covering 5 major roadblocks that we see when speaking with teams in liabilities divisions. It is essentially these roadblocks that any liabilities team needs to overcome in order to successfully ensure that all forms, agreements, and other documents in your division are completely paperless, right? So let's start with the first roadblock. So how will we do it is we'll cover 1 or 2 roadblocks, and then we'll actually show you the product, how you can actually overcome these roadblocks, right? So the first roadblock is this belief that, look, unlike loan agreements, liability side paperwork is largely branch driven, right? So there's no point in digitizing, or there's very low ROI in digitizing because there is going to be a branch process involved. right? If someone is coming to the branch anyway, then what's the point of going digital? To be quite honest, even 2, 3 years back, loan divisions used to think like this. Some still do. But today, if you see the data is clear, our highest volume use cases for eSign based processes on the loan side are actually those where the customer still comes to the branch, right? That has not been eliminated because look on the liability side, look at the current physical paperwork process at a branch level, right? It's a complex multi-touch process. And it's not very pleasant for all stakeholders involved because the very presence of paper in the process creates significant economic and environmental costs. One, filling up forms, verifying them, signing them, all takes a lot of time in the signing journey, in the physical journey, which leads to long wait times and crowding at a branch, leading to frustrated customers who sometimes don't want to come are also forced to come because that paperwork can only happen physically at the branch. Then, of course, there's a high direct cost of paperwork, printing, stationery, transport, storage. It's around 100 rupees per document kit on average, ballpark, give or take. And then on the staff side, paperwork needs to be printed, filled up, verified. Stamp paper needs to be affixed. Correct signatures need to be placed. You need to chase the authorized signatory around. You need to then store that safely. There's a lot of small cuts involved in the paperwork process that all add up. And on average, a branch of a bank spends approximately a total of 2 hours per day per branch just on these small cut mundane paperwork tasks, right? So if you flip it around, it's 2 hours per day that you're losing from your branch staff actually doing core work to build the customer relationship or drive growth. And of course, finally, there's a wider societal cost. Heavy use of paper is obviously the obvious one, but think about the energy used in a physical process, right? Printing paper, transporting paper. Someone is traveling to the branch just to sign paperwork. It's a significant carbon footprint, right? So really, even though your processes may be branch-led, there are still radical benefits that digital paperwork can give you instantly on the liability side, right? Paperwork can be closed in minutes, making a super smooth experience at the branch for your customers, way less crowding. What's better is you can also offer completely digital experiences to new age customers who really want it. Two, you save about 50% of your direct costs per agreement kit, reducing your cost of account opening in one fell swoop, right? And then each branch gains about 90 minutes per day because they no longer have to do mundane paperwork tasks. So imagine a 90-minute unlock per branch per day. And finally, there's, of course, an immense environmental benefit, right? So 4 powerful benefits, even though your customer, even after digitization, will still come to the branch. And in many cases, yes, the customer prefers coming to the branch. You still get a lot of benefits, right? And there's a fifth benefit, which I touched upon. Often when we say, okay, it's a branch-led process, often the process is branch-led because of forms and documentation, right? So in other words, it is branch-driven because of physical paperwork. And physical paperwork processes now justify themselves because everyone is used to the branch-led process, right? It's like a catch-22. When you go digital, a new reality is now actually possible, right? You can offer a completely digital banking experience with paperwork duly executed without sacrificing compliance, right? Ensuring that this paperwork is properly executed as per RBI norms, all as per the customer's convenience on the customer's phone. And so while older bank customers will still prefer coming to the branch, an increasing younger cohort wants to avoid this, right? And try to do everything from their phone or from the convenience of their own home, right? It's this cohort that banks are trying to get now to open savings accounts, this cohort that's parking their deposits in mutual funds or other alternative to deposits. It's this that is going to unlock the next phase of growth for CASA, for liability side growth, right? And the key to unlocking at least the younger generation in this cohort is delivering a next level experience. And that is only possible. You may need multiple things to do that, but fundamentally, you can't do that unless you fundamentally have digital paperwork. So let's hop on to our first demo of the day. Let's quickly show you how a reKYC process, for example, right? Paperwork side will work, something that's currently physical, currently a source of immense frustration. You can look on Twitter, you can look on social media. Why do we have reKYC? Why does a bank keep calling me for reKYC? Immense source of frustration. You can have regulatory requirement for banks. you can definitely reduce that frustration and enhance the customer experience if you have digital paperwork. So over to Shubhesh to show a quick demo of this new kind of experience that we're talking about that is now possible with digital paperwork.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. Let me just share my screen. Let me know it's visible.
Yes, Shubhesh, it's visible.
Okay, I'm gonna show everyone a reKYC flow, and which is one of the flows for which a lot of banks they still calling you to branches. In fact, a few days back only, I got a call from my bank that they wanted me to come and fill out KYC paperwork. Here we've made a dummy net banking portal. You can integrate the form center where reKYC forms usually are found. Within this, you can even put it on your website, or let's say you want to call people to your branches, you can even set it up within your branch. I'm going to show you how you can execute paperwork with legality if people are coming to your branches. But for this demo, we're going to do a remote reKYC flow. So I'm going to go to form center. As you can see, we have a bunch of forms already in the form center. I'll click on reKYC. It's going to automatically create an agreement for me. I'll select a language that I'm comfortable with. This language is going to change, what do you call it, the language of the interface that I have. Let's say if I want to change it to Bangla, I can. I'll switch it back to English. This is my reKYC form. I'll click on proceed. If you want your customers to fill details, you can ask them. If you don't want them to fill this, that's also fine. You can populate it from your LOS LMS systems as well. You can ask them to attach a proof. Here I've just attached a dummy image for now. I'm gonna proceed. This is my filled form. Now, because this is a remote flow, we're capturing the GPS coordinates of the customer. But let's say if the customer is coming to your branch, you can even geofence this eSign to your branch. What I mean is, if the eSign is attempted outside of your branch, it will not be possible. My GPS location has been successfully captured. I'll click on proceed. Now I'm gonna do a liveliness test. In liveliness, we use AI to check whether a person is actually present during the eSign or not. As you can see, I've started capture. It's asking me to move a bit closer.
I think you'll need to switch off your Zoom camera, maybe. Oh no,
Yes,
it's
as
working.
you can see, I followed the instructions on the screen and it has successfully captured the face. If it detected that I'm putting up a photo in front of the camera or I'm not actually there, it would have blocked my eSign. If you saw, there was one error which said there was unstable motion of the face. So it just blocked that attempt. So I'm going to
Another important thing to note is, especially for eKYC flows and similar flows, is not only can you capture the live face, but if you have, say, a customer ID stored in your system, you can actually match that face as well, right? Essentially, even in the remote flow, a lot of the checks, manual checks and balances you're doing at the branch, you can digitally insert those checks in a hard-coded logic so that automatically those checks are taken care of and you don't necessarily rely on your branch people to ensure they've done that check. So there's no scope or discretion for your branch team as well to skip that check, right? Systemically, you have ensured that check is inbuilt into the flow. So this is the Aadhaar e-sign screen. There are multiple signing options which we'll show you, but essentially the customer is taken through both the verification layer, customer is taken through the form layer where they see the populated form, customer can fill in data, and now customer is taken to the e-sign layer, all in one unique integrated flow straight through your net banking portal or any other portal you want to offer this service to.
Yeah, so this is the Protean NSDL Aadhaar eSign screen. We are connected with three SPs. Let's say this eSign didn't work. Let's say Protean was facing downtime. All I will have to do, or all your customer will have to do, is refresh, and it will automatically take them to another ESP where they can successfully do their Aadhaar eSign. So I've clicked on accepting terms and condition, and I've entered my Aadhaar number. I'm gonna request an OTP. So just waiting for the OTP to come from UIDI. So as you can see on this screen as well, we have custom branded a lot of elements into this to a normal Protean screen. You'll see we've changed the colors, we've added logos. We can do this for any company who wants to use legality. As soon as a customer will land onto the screen, they'll see your logo, your branding, which makes them feel secure. Okay, my OTP is also here, so I'm just gonna enter that. So once this is done, the screen is automatically going to close, and the document will be sent to the customer over email, WhatsApp, or SMS, however you want, and it will also be stored in your LOS LMS system.
CBS, so not for liabilities.
Yes, yeah.
It will be stored in your core banking system directly.
So yeah, that's
the example we used reKYC as an example, right? Right now, it requires days of back and forth. Sir, when can you come to the branch? Ma'am, when can you come to the branch? It requires immense frustration on the part of some customers. Obviously, some customers do prefer still coming to the branch, but there's significant amount who don't want to. You can ensure that gets done in, as Shubha showed you, in as low as 2 minutes, right? The entire end-to-end reKYC form filling process, all through, say, a net banking portal or an internet app. Actually reducing the load of your branch. So if people come to the branch, there's actually less people there because some people are doing it from home. So really this objection that, look, customer is anyway coming to the branch, is not a barrier to actually significant business returns, both at the branch level and significant new possibilities where you can actually offer banking services to customers who prefer doing it remotely because they're used to doing everything remotely, right? So that's the first roadblock out of the way. Let's go to the second one, right? The second objection is that, hey, look, I already actually do have digital processes for many liabilities flows, but this process is usually, this process is usually not eSign based. It's click wrap based, right? Think about that I accept button that often sometimes has an OTP, very common in net banking apps, right? Now, this is okay for a lot of flows, but for paperwork, it becomes an issue, right? It becomes a big compliance issue that you will have to fill this compliance gap at some point or the other, right? Because there is an increasing awareness and increasing scrutiny of the type of fraud that can happen at the account opening stage itself, right? Mule accounts, like fraudulently created accounts, multiple dummy accounts. So as banks rush to improve their liability side of the balance sheet, because that's the major focus for many banks, right? Like improving deposit holders number of liabilities. As loans increase, you need to also commensurately increase liabilities. This drive for rapid growth and rapid account opening makes it even more important that you ensure this rapid onboarding, this rapid account opening safeguards against this fraud. Because the more you do it, the more fraudsters will try to scam the system, right? So the thing is, with a simple I accept box in your net banking app, you cannot actually systemically safeguard against this fraud, right? Because with this kind of click wrap, one, you can't prove who actually clicked the button, whether it's the actual customer. Two, it's easy to digitally manipulate or alter the underlying document. There's no technical safeguard put on the document. And three, it's super hard to verify this entire chain during an RBI audit, right? On the other hand, if you switch to an eSign based process, by nature, by the very technical architecture of it, you can, one, directly verify who has signed. With Leegality, you can also add layers where you actually block or prevent unauthorized signers from actually completing the authentication and the sign. Two, the underlying document actually breaks and notifies you if it's been tampered with. So you can detect if any tampering has actually occurred. And three, you get an Evidence Act compliant audit trail that makes it super easy to show this entire chain during RBI audits, right? So whatever eSign type you choose, it's by nature easier to bolster and prevent things like mule accounts or fraud at the branch level at a very systemic, hard-coded level, right? We'll show you in a demo in few minutes, but wanted to quickly cover another objection that we received, that the demo will cover like both these objections. So the third objection is, look, digitization makes sense. eSign based processes make sense for loan paperwork. First objection was, of course, we already have it through ClickWrap, so we don't need this. The second objection is, look, it makes sense for loans because Aadhaar eSign exists. And for liability, Aadhaar eSign makes sense for loan documentation. But on the liability side, we're used to taking physical signature images. I match that physical signature image. There's a whole workflow built around it, right? So Aadhaar eSign really doesn't make sense for me. And this is fair. But the thing is, Aadhaar eSign is not the only eSign based process you can implement. There's a whole bouquet of options for you, right? So there are roughly three buckets of liabilities documents, right? One type of document is things like a locker agreement. Now, locker agreement has a very specific RBI regulation saying that you need to get this signed. Now, what this basically means is if you want to do it digitally, you mandatorily need to use an eSign. So Aadhaar eSign really is a mandatory option for you here if you want to do it digitally. Second bucket is where security is your number one priority beyond everything else, right? At the cost of everything else. Let's say you're signing a multi-crore on the wholesale liability side, a multi-crore cash management agreements with multinational corporations who have hundreds of authorized signatories. You want to sign it with the right one, right? Here you want Aadhaar eSign purely for its inherent inbuilt and additional possible security benefits that Leegality provides over and above that, right? So Aadhaar eSign becomes the most effective option if you want to go digital. But a third and probably majority of cases is, of course, documents where you want access to customers to be prioritized, where they may not have Aadhaar, where they may be reluctant to use an Aadhaar eSign. For this, you actually have several secure, easy to use non-Aadhaar options, right? It's a big misconception that eSign means Aadhaar eSign or nothing, right? So there is a secure sign upload possible, right? Also for the liability side, which we're going to now show you in a quick demo. So I'll hand it over to Shubesh. We'll quickly show you how this works, right? This non-Aadhaar eSign option. While we're showing this to you, we'll also show you how a branch-led flow would work, right? Because as we discussed, the last demo we showed you was completely remote. Now we'll show you, hey, look, 70% of my customers are still at the branch. How will it work at the branch? So we'll show you how that workflow would look. And we'll also show you non-Aadhaar alternative that we think is perfect for liabilities divisions and banks. Over to you, Subhash.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show a account opening flow wherein people are coming to your branches to open their account. Your agent will have a bunch of workflows set onto the Leegality dashboard, just the way you can see on my screen right now. This is my account opening workflow that I've already pre-configured. Your agent will have to do is click on run.
So one important thing to remember is because it's our demo account, we have all the workflows activatable by Shubesh to run. What you can actually do is you can hard code access to this. So you can have a separate instance, a separate dashboard for, say, the CASA department. So they can only see the CASA workflow and all they can do is press run. You can have a different one for locker. So this type of customization and access control is available to you. We just have access to all the workflows because this is our demo account where we have to run multiple demos. But essentially, the process is as easy as that workflow will be visible to someone at the branch. They log into Leegality. They can't make any other changes. All they can do is run the workflow. That's the only option given to them. They simply click on run, and the rest of the steps Subhash will show you.
Yeah. So as you can see, my document is already selected. So I had created a template. I can name my file, give it a reference number. Now your agent can fill the details you need in this form here, or you can even fetch it from your CBS system. So I'll just quickly fill in some details.
You can also set some forms as mandatory. So you can ensure that your agent does not actually skip filling in details, right? So for example, name. Let's say the agent doesn't fill in the name, right? The system will not allow it to proceed.
Or if you want your customers to only fill in data, you can just toggle this on in your workflow, and all of this information your customer will fill. So it honestly depends on you how you want to run this. So in this, there's only one person who needs to sign, which is me. So your agent will fill the details of the customer.
So all other eSign configurations have been hard coded, say by your ops or business team. Your agent in the workflow does not need to change anything. You can in fact restrict them from changing anything. And all they need to do is enter the variable fields, name, contact details, and any file in case they need to do that.
So what I'm doing right now is I had put face match onto this particular workflow because this would be a workflow which would also get used online remotely. So once your customer fills in the account opening application, they do the KYC, you will have certain ID proofs and photos of the customer. You can pass it from your CBS to Leegality for face match. Here, because this is a dashboard flow, I'm uploading this for face match. I've also toggled on liveness test for this. So this will make sure a person is actually in front of the screen and it is the right person who's e-signing a document. So I'll just click on save. I'll click on send next, and this is my populated account opening form. For the sake of this demo, I had increased the size of the content that gets filled in each field. I hope you guys can see that. Shubhesh 123456 date. So I'll just
and signature spots also, we not configured them, but you can hard code what spots the signature appears in, right? Because in forms there's multiple specific spots you wanted to appear in that can also be hard coded. Your agent does not actually have to mark them. It's hard coded as logic, and your agent simply has to run the workflow as Shubhash is doing right now.
Correct. As you can see, I had sent a document from my dashboard. The customer will receive the eSign link to that particular document on their WhatsApp. So this is the invite. I'll just click on eSign.
Apart from WhatsApp, email and SMS is also available. We found that for retail side, customer side, WhatsApp is usually the choice. But say for corporate side liabilities, like if you're dealing with an MNC, then you probably want an email side thing. So all three are possible.
Yeah. So again, even in this flow, customers can choose the language for eSign interface. I'll click on English again. This is my pre-filled document. I'll click on proceed. I will have to do an OTP verification. Just give me a second. This OTP ensures that even before face match or anything else happens, your document can't be accessed by people you don't want them to access. So this is the first step wherein face match and liveness test will happen. So yeah, as you can see, it has successfully matched my face to the photo that I had uploaded, and it has also tested my liveliness. If I failed, let's say this, I have still had 2 more tries after this. I'll click on proceed. So in this, we want to collect specimen signature. What I mean is, can you see this?
Yeah, just move it a bit closer. Yeah.
So I want my vetting signature to get affixed to this document because this is a account opening form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on capture. I also have the option to click upload a photo of this particular document. But at branch, you want them to do this in front of you remotely. You can't really control it. So you can just ask them to hold this signature in front of the camera. Click on capture. The system will automatically detect where the signature is. If you want, you can adjust this also. Totally up to you. You can rotate the image if the rotation is not correct. I'll click on proceed. So then Leegality is going to give signers 3 options. Whichever is the closest resembling signature based on the vetting signature, people can select that and e-sign the document. Let's say this is the signature that I think resembles my vetting signature the most. If I don't like
Because,
it,
yeah. And the reason we built this is that usually if it would be very simple for us to just say that, you upload the image and we just crop the image and put it on. But the thing is, we did try that initially in the initial build. But what was happening, and you guys may have more experience on this because you've tried such solutions, is that essentially the image is as good as not having anything because it's a very blur, hard to read image. It's just a namesake of that I have cropped the image and put it right. We wanted to ensure that the actual core benefit, that the visual impression of the sign as accurately as possible, right, as the person wrote it, is the illustration or is what is actually captured on the document. So for that, our system actually extracts the sign. One, it detects where the sign is on the image and captures that part of the image. And then it extracts the sign part from that image and presents it in a way that is clear on the digital copy, which is what the next step is. Essentially giving 3 options.
Yeah. So I had already generated 3 options, but I wasn't too satisfied. So I clicked on try fixing it. It took me back to the previous screen where I could change the selection on the screen for signature or upload a new image. So let's say I'm satisfied with this. This is what my vetting signature looks like. So I'll just select that, click on proceed, give my eSign consent and click on sign document. The document has been e-signed. Is my screen still visible?
Yes.
Okay. So as you can see, that vetting signature has been affixed to the document here. Is this visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So it looks exactly the same how this looked. And yeah, you can this way collect specimen signature, which are often needed for account opening flows, wherein you would also want to do check authorizations and other things.
We are also building, what's also in the pipeline, and this is a request we've received from many liabilities divisions at banks, is the ability to then take the signature and match this. So let's say you collect a specimen signature once and there's subsequent signs happening. You can actually match the two. So just like we showed you face match, we're also building signature match. If that is something that is especially important to you, please let us know. A few banks have already requested it and our product team is working on it. But the more people we have expressing interest, the more we can push our product team to do it faster. So what did we just show you? We showed you two things. We showed you one, how you can run it at the branch level, right? Through a run workflow completely through the dashboard, right? So even at the branch, it's a paperless experience. Two, we showed you that, look, we showed you Aadhaar eSign in the first demo, that for certain cases, you may need Aadhaar eSign, and it's a super simple process to integrate. It's a super simple experience as well. Then we showed you that there is a non-Aadhaar option available as well, right? You may not want Aadhaar, but that doesn't mean you have to go to a very unsecure click wrap based process. You can do a secure sign upload, which gives you the familiarity. It gives your customers the familiarity of actually signing. But it also combines that familiarity with the security that a digital process provides that helps you prevent fraud in your system, that takes that fraud prevention out of the discretion of your branch team and puts it in the hands of a system that you hard code. That's essentially what we've shown you so far. And I think that covers the first three objections. So let's look at the fourth objection, right? Related. Fourth objection is, look, this digital process is too inaccessible to my customers, right? Traditional bank customers who come to the branch, they really value that branch experience and value the old traditional process. So one, this is, as I mentioned, not true for a growing cohort of people that banks want to attract today for increased accounts and things like that. But two, it's a big myth that eSign based processes are actually more inaccessible than the traditional physical process. Because in a legality based eSign process, you can actually build in accessibility into the journey in a way that the customers actually may feel more informed by the process than in a physical one. So for one, you can, for example, some customers may have some physical impairment by which they delayed coming to the branch or they can't come to the branch, right? For such customers, you can enable them to access such services remotely, right? Second, it can happen via WhatsApp interface a customer is comfortable in, even at the branch level. Third, you can deliver it in a local language. And fourth, they don't have to keep signing everywhere. And then the branch person says, hey, no, you missed a sign here. And then they sign again. That irritation is gone, right? No repeated filling, a single eSign works. So even if they like to come to the branch, this makes the branch experience significantly more pleasant for them. So let's take a look at a demo. Although we showed you some of these features, let's quickly look at what accessibility you can build into the flow. So Shubhesh, what are you going to show us for this third demo?
So for this demo, I'm gonna just give me a second. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay. So for this demo, I'm gonna show a locker agreement flow, how people can still feel more comfortable despite it being a bit more critical document. Let's say customer comes to your branch, your agent will run the locker agreement workflow. My document is already selected, so I'm just gonna click on next. This, I've kept a very simple form in terms of entering details because I wanted to focus on other features in this demo. This is my document. As you can see,
Stamp paper is also affixed. So stamp paper is available across 31 states. So for some of your paperwork where you need it, we have a very easy system which you eliminate your complete stamp procurement. Like you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, this agreement is in Hindi and it's in English for people sees. You can add any other language also if you want to. If your customers are not speaking Hindi or English, I'm gonna click on next. Here we're collecting two signatures, one from the customer who wants the locker and second from the bank. Bank's signature we have automated. This is automatically gonna get fixed within 20 seconds after the customer resigns. So I'm the customer in this case. So I'll just enter my details. For this document, we are collecting Aadhaar eSign. So it's asking me for my Aadhaar title. so that I can't use any other Aadhaar to eSign. It's going to block people from using Aadhaar, which is not authorized or somebody else's. I'm going to put both my email and my WhatsApp number. I will click on next. So this is my stamp paper. This is a dummy stamp paper we've put just for the sake of this demo to show you what all you'll find on a typical digital stamp paper. These are my eSign coordinates where the customer's signature and the bank signature are going to appear on each page. If you want, you can collect nominee signature also in a very similar way onto locker agreements. So I'll send invite. And as soon as the agent sends invite again, as you can see, the customer will get WhatsApp eSign invite immediately, which is very easy because sometimes in email or in WhatsApp, it can still get difficult, right? People may not find that link. But with WhatsApp, everyone, no matter who it is, currently comfortable. Now, biggest challenge with digital interfaces is a lot of people are scared that they're in English. But we've given people the option that just like in ATM, you can select what language you want to continue in. So let's say I don't speak English. I'll continue this in Hindi, which is great because even my agreement is available to me in Hindi. So I can very easily read the terms of this agreement and click on Aage Bhade. I'll give eSign consent.
So
As
if
you
you
can,
see, go ahead.
sorry, I was just saying, if you can see even the eSign consent we have given in Hindi or whatever language the person will select for this interface. So they're absolutely clear what they are doing and why they're doing it. Sorry, yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah. So beyond that, also what people often take for granted in eSign based journeys, there's actually a lot. Like there are 2 or 3 critical steps involved, right? Which has language in it, like that whole box, right? Stuff to read, which often when we see demo in English, we take it for granted and we say, great, it's easy. But this is often a source for drop-offs. And that's a big source of reluctance for on the liability side to actually implement such processes because it confuses the customer. So that's why we built something like, say, a local language inbuilt into the system so that digital process feels comfortable and obviously ultimately reduces the chance of drop-offs. Similarly, on the Aadhaar eSign screen, it often looks very daunting. Is this a shady website? Is this a correct website? So we put our legality branding here, but you can basically replace this branding with your bank's branding, right? So instead of the legality logo, your bank's logo, instead of that legality purple over there, your bank's colors would be there, right? Ensuring customers like comfortable that, okay, this is a legit process that I'm doing on the bank's interface or on the bank's journey, in the bank's journey.
Yeah. Also, in this case, I had entered my Aadhaar number. If you remember, while sending the document as well, I had given the last 4 digit of my Aadhaar. So this e-sign was only successful because the Aadhaar I used to do this e-sign was the same as what I had entered while sending the document. But let's say if I tried doing the same e-sign using Aditya's Aadhaar, that would not have worked. So as you can see, my e-sign has been done using Aadhaar. It's visible here. But if you'll see bank's e-sign, which was supposed to happen automatically without me doing anything, it's also been done while we were just talking and telling you things. Now this is done. How will a customer get it? Customer will get the signed document as well as the audit trail directly onto their WhatsApp. They can easily download this and have this accessible whenever they want within their WhatsApp itself. So this is my signed document that was received over WhatsApp. This is my signature. This is bank's signature. And this is the audit trail that we were sent. So as you can see, I hope my screen is still visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, it has all the activities that happened, a detailed log of it. It also had certificate details of my e-sign sent by UIDI. And yeah, that's it.
Great. So what have we shown you so far, right? We've shown you like multiple demos and bombarded you with things. But essentially what we showed you is, look, if you want a completely remote experience, you can do it, where you can actually enable legality through your net banking app or any other portal, completely easy to do. If you want Aadhaar eSign involved, it's a very simple flow once you've done the integration or even without the integration. We've shown you how you can do this without an integration just by running a workflow agent inputting some details. We've shown you a non-Aadhaar eSign alternative that like has the familiarity of physical signatures, right? So that familiarity gap is bridged. And we've shown you a variety of ways you can actually customize the interface to ensure that this digital process is actually easy for your customers. It's welcoming to your customers, and they don't feel daunted by it, right? Like actually reducing your drop-offs. And so through all of these, you're essentially able to actually enhance accessibility, enhance how many customers you're able to reach, make it easier for everyone involved on platforms and in ways that the customer is more familiar with and the customer is more comfortable with. And ultimately, all of this ensures maximum transparency because customers also receive their signed paperwork instantly. That's what we've shown you so far, right? Like these are different layers you can customize into your journey to overcome the 4 roadblocks that we've talked about so far. But there's a 5th roadblock, and this is probably the most important, and this is probably the most successful at actually derailing digital implementations, is that, look, I don't have IT or tech bandwidth, right? And we've heard this from some liabilities division that like on loan side, on asset side, it's very easy to get buy-in for digitization. But for liabilities, it's very early days. So it's much harder to get that tech or IT bandwidth, right? And we understand this is a challenge, right? And really, when like when you go out there and trying to evaluate and implement eSign processes, this is the challenge you'll face again and again. There will always be heavy IT and tech involvement for every small step, making eSign a nightmare to implement. And people who come to us said that's why we chucked it or we put it in cold storage, this implementation. But legality is not like this, because we made legality one in order to enable you to go live without your IT or tech teams. As we showed you in a previous demo, you can actually run a flow at the branch straight from our dashboard. Your IT or tech team does not need to get involved even one bit, right? It can be configured by your business or ops teams. It can be run by them, right? So many of our banks, especially on the wholesale side of things, even on lending side, have actually gone live at scale across the breadth of the documentation without even opening the link to our API documentation, right? It all happens via the dashboard. One international bank, in fact, has been live for about 4 years across 8 or 9 liability side verticals. And they're only now looking at API integration for some retail asset side vertical, right? So while their retail side was like for years trying to get buy-in for the API integration, the liability side zoomed ahead and actually digitized most of the documentation simply by using the dashboard, right? There was absolutely no need for IT or tech buy-in or bandwidth. It just happened completely on the business side. So that's possible, right? So I think for about like 35 to 40% of your use cases, just a ballpark figure, use cases, you can go 100% digital for those use cases. Your IT or tech team not being there is not a hindrance at all if you use legality. But the second thing is, look, ultimately, you may eventually in the long term want everything integrated into your own bank portal, right? And you need an API integration at the end of the day in the long term. So we make it super easy here as well, right? With legality, essentially business, ops, and product teams can simply configure the entire workflow through the dashboard on day one. No need to call your IT or tech team. You can do it through a mouse and a keyboard. And when it comes to an integration, it's a super simple, very small payload that your IT team needs to implement. We've had implementations where they've done it in less than 24 hours. We've had implementations where they've done it in less than 72 hours, right? If your IT team has a day or two, it can be done in that time, right? And the best part is after you go live, often the major delay comes in that if you need to make any optimizations or changes, right? You still need to call back your IT team, which delays everything. Here, after it goes live, after your IT team has actually integrated it, your business team can directly make changes to the flow on the dashboard itself, right? Sounds too good to be true. So let's actually show you a demo of this.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So for integration, the first thing your team will have to do is set up a workflow. They can very easily do that by going to workflows on the dashboard and clicking on this new workflow profile. For the sake of this demo and time, I'll show you this is a workflow that we had already created. Let's say this CASA
There was a
workflow.
CASA account opening, right? We showed you run workflow, where at the branch they're running the workflow, clicking on that button. Let's say you want to integrate it now. What do you do? Same workflow that Shubha showed you earlier.
Yeah. So let's say your workflow is ready. You've made all the configurations. All you'll have to do is go to actions and download this API payload file. This
Yeah, we can't
payload.
see the payload on screen because your screen share is only single screen.
Wait, I'll do it just. I hope full screen is visible now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This is my workflow, CASA account opening workflow. I'll go to actions and I'll simply just download API payload. The JSON file for this payload will get downloaded. All your team will have to do, or business teams will have to do, is pass this file to the tech team, who will have to just use this JSON file for integration. This, honestly, this can cut a lot of your time for that you spend with your tech team integrating a simple digital solution. And if you think I'm just saying that for the sake of saying it, I kid you not, this particular reKYC workflow that I showed you on the net banking portal, from creating it to taking it live on a website, it took us 30 to 40 minutes at max, which included me setting it up on the Leegality dashboard, giving this API payload file to a website developer, and then them building that interface and integrating the demo.
So
So
let's also what happens when you need to modify it, because this is actually the biggest source of friction. Is the initial live is often a V1. There's a lot of optimizations after you go live that you realize, okay, shit, I need to actually ensure these things. But by that time, the IT team has moved on to a different project. So essentially your whole go live is useless and the project has come to a complete stop. So how does that get solved here?
yeah, so for that, all your business teams will have to do is click on edit for that particular workflow. I can choose a different agreement. Let's say I want to modify or use a new template. I can select that. But let's say I'm happy with my template. I'll click on next. This is my new template. I'll
Yeah,
click
let's
on.
say here you wanted to basically say that, look, I think WhatsApp doesn't work. We need to like move off WhatsApp. We need to just use email, right? Let's say it was for a corporate lending or corporate liability side, corporate account opening. And you say that, look, we can't use WhatsApp for the authorized signatory of a bank. But you did do that for the integration, right? Now you want to deactivate WhatsApp, add email. It's as simple as toggling off WhatsApp.
So I've let's say I've toggled off WhatsApp, and let's say I also want to put a reviewer in this flow. I want somebody to check the kind of the document before it gets e-signed. Just like that won't be a realistic use case, but let's say in this case we want it to happen because I want to show you how easily it gets translated in a live flow. So I'll click on next and I'll save it. Now whenever somebody uses this workflow in integration, so as you can see, it blocked me from going ahead because I forgot to enter this name, which was a mandatory field, which we were showing you in an earlier demo. So now I'll quickly just add reviewer details. If you remembered, we had toggled off WhatsApp, so you're not even getting the option for WhatsApp anymore. It's asking me to upload an image again for face match, so I'll upload my image for face match. Click on save and send this invite. So now, first, this the same invite that you saw was directly going to the person who's signing this agreement or opening an account with you. Now it's going to a reviewer first. So I'll quickly show you how it works. With some yeah. So I've gotten the invite to review this document. I'll click on review. Okay, I like this document. It's all okay. I'll click on accept. I'll give consent and I'll approve this document. So the same flow that you saw earlier, then the same flow will now start because we have added a reviewer. This person has approved it. Now the normal flow that we showed previously is going to start.
Yeah. So essentially, if you think about it, we've added a completely new feature to the flow. We've added a new layer of signing to the flow. We've disabled some customizations for the actual signer where we disabled WhatsApp. Usually that would take multiple back and forths with your IT team. We did it in front of you in 30 seconds. The same workflow which Shubhai showed you earlier has now been modified and is running with the modified flow with zero IT or tech team. Both of us are marketers here. We don't know code. We could do it without our IT or tech team being involved, right? It's actually that simple. What we showed you on screen is exactly how it would work for you as well.
Actually, Aditya, before we moved ahead, we just wanted to launch the poll again because there was some issue last time when we were trying to launch. Azima, can you launch?
Meanwhile, of course, if you're like, we're also present across the ecosystem and we're fast like integrating with new software that is relevant to you, right? So we come pre-integrated with some leading software providers for banks. So if you use any of the software that you're seeing on screen, then really all of this integration stuff, there's no question of it. It's like using legalities as easy as flicking on a switch, right? If we are already pre-integrated into this software. So that's the crux of it. If you really want to, you can integrate and go live with Leegality this quarter if you want to. You can go live without integration next week if you want to. Right. So the IT bandwidth, leave that to the loan side to leave it for them to deal with. On the liability side, we've seen tremendous success of people going live with locker agreements, people going live with cash management onboarding, people going live with general CASA onboarding without their tech teams being involved. Tech teams got involved maybe in the second year of the implementation. And it's possible, and we've seen it happen on the liability side. You can go ahead and do it, right? We actually have a track record of successfully doing it on the loan side as well in super quick time. We'll do it for the liability side. And several liabilities verticals have already begun, right? Apart from the international bank that I mentioned, several verticals of 4 leading banks, some of you are on this call. Several of these banks that you see on screen, their liability sides have gotten in touch with us and have begun digitizing their liabilities paperwork. And they're seeing the fantastic benefits already that we discussed earlier, right? It's a radical business improvement for you, for your staff, for your customers, and for the environment. So some of you on this webinar are already in the process of implementing. So good luck. We'll see you live very soon. If the rest of you on this webinar want to join them, contact us at the email that you see on screen or fill the form on our website, right? We'll give you a detailed custom demo. We'll help you understand your flow. We'll understand your flow deeply. And then we'll help you configure and test a digital workflow, eSign based workflow for that use case. We'll actually configure that for you in a free testing account in less than a day, right? So if you're interested on the liability side in overtaking your loan verticals who are still grappling with API integrations, who have like year-long implementations, if you want to like race ahead and digitize paperwork, offer a great experience to customers, offer a market leading experience right now because not many are doing it. You have the chance to be a trendsetter, then do contact us. We'd be happy to help. And do send this recording and do send this information to anyone in a liabilities division who this may be helpful to, right? Apart from that, if you want to generally keep in touch with Leegality, what product features we're launching, what new regulations has RBI released and how you can comply, and new implementation studies, you can scan this QR code and join our WhatsApp or email opt-in facility, where we will send you weekly notifications and weekly updates on what's going on with RBI regulations that affect your digital processes and with what's happening on Leegality, any new features that we release, right? So do scan to get these updates. So let's move on to open Q&A. Would like to thank everyone who's attended so far. Let's move on to open Q&A and let's take questions. So we don't have any questions in the Q&A box, but we do have a hand raised. So Paul, I'm going to give you mic access right now. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. The question is, in the secured sign method, the second method of signature that you just shown us,
Yes.
wanted to check how is it that the ops team will verify whether the signature is genuine or not. The Aadhaar OTP, it's very
Right.
straightforward. The very backend verification for the secured sign signature is something that we would like to know.
So Paul, right now, as it stands, it would be a manual. Right now, secure sign upload works where from a physical process where you're physically matching and collecting, you want to at least move everything, like you want to move it to a digital process where the verification is still manual, but you're getting the other benefits of digital. But as I mentioned, our product team is building a feature where you will like, so in the next, like on the roadmap, which we're actively building right now, is a feature where like in Aadhaar, you can match. If it's a mismatch, it blocks it. You can do that similarly for sign match as well, where you can pass on this specimen signature in the API and it will match to see if there's a match. And if there's a mismatch, then it will reject the sign. So that the automated way to verify is still a work in progress. We are actively building it. Right now, this is merely a way for you to, what manual verification a lot of liability sites are doing, you can still do that and it would still work that way. It's just that you can ensure that the other legs of the journey are still fully digital. So like the customer experience benefits and some of the cost benefits you can still get while your verification would still be manual. At the same time, that being said, as I mentioned, we are building something to ensure there's automated sign match as well.
Another just quick question on the same thing. Is this legally valid if there's no validation mechanism in the backend?
Absolutely. If you think about it, like even a physical signature, the validation mechanism for a physical signature is a bank's choice to do, right? It's a process you set up to do. There's no automated validation and it's completely legal, right? So similarly for digital as well, it's legal to do. Now the question is, you may still need a verification layer in order to prevent what is illegal, which is fraud and things like that. For that, right now, you'll have to do it manually. This is just a way to ensure that everything else is digital. But soon we will be coming out with automated sign matching as well to ensure that the entire loop is fully digital, including validations. So it's up to your comfort. Like some banks, for example, say that, look, I'll at least switch to this digital process and still do the manual validation, which I'm anyway doing in status quo with physical. That this is useful for those kind of banks right now, where they're not comfortable with switching wholesale to Aadhaar. This is for that. Soon with our automated sign validation, that manual gap that's there would also be filled. Of course, if you're using Aadhaar, then this becomes a moot question. Then you can use Aadhaar as your primary and use this as a backup. So if you use this as a backup where they don't have linkage, then your manual verification in status quo would be for less cases. And of course, in a few months, you won't even have the question of that because there'll be automated validation built in, which we'll be launching soon.
So this automated validation that you're talking about, is it like a V3 wherein you do a KYC and then that it will be valid signature?
No. So all you need to do is essentially, right now you may be collecting a specimen. Say at the onboarding stage, you collect a specimen signature, right? Or a signature that you keep when you are matching currently in the status quo physical process, there's a specimen that you're matching to, right?
Right.
So that you collect digitally. And basically in the API, that is passed on as the specimen to match with, and Leegality will match the two. And if there's a mismatch, it will reject. If there's a match, it will accept. So it will be a one-time upload of the specimen signature.
What about in video KYC?
So video KYC is it's a process we don't handle at all. So it's a process that comes before the document execution stage. We don't touch that part of the process. So if you're doing a video KYC now, and if that is providing you that validation, then great. We don't handle that. We handle everything related to the document execution process that happens after KYC.
Understood. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And happy to, if you want to go deeper into the technicalities of sign upload, I'm happy to take this offline as well. If you want to just dive even deeper into exactly how does it work, what would the API call be like, what would a potential future, in fact, I know our product team would love to talk to you if you wish about how should a inbuilt validation work. They are in the process of speaking to banks right now, so would be happy to speak to you as well and help build the feature with your inputs as well. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Akshay, I've given you mic access. You can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, Aditya, this is Akshay here. In the document language change, whether we have to give you separate documents for you to change the document, or Leegality will automatically process the document in English and automatically.
So Akshay, two things. For document, you will have to configure the document templates for that language because the document content cannot be changed in real time. For interface customization, the buttons, the consent, that happens on the fly automatically. So you don't need to do anything there. But yes, for documents, you will have to do a one-time configuration of the various language templates. We have a template team that can help you do that as well. And we do have translation services that can help you do that, but it will be a one-time manual configuration. It's not an automated on-the-fly change. Because right now, translation services are not where you can guarantee an on-the-fly document translation like in a second. Like, unfortunately, that technology doesn't exist reliably so far. So that would be a one-time manual configuration, which will help you do in like super quick time. But the interface customization is something that happens on the fly automatically.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
If you're interested in taking next steps on this. As we said that we can move very fast on this. But if you want to move slow, we'll give you a free testing account and you can just test out everything yourself. We'll take you through it and you can just play around with Leegality for free as well, like on a free testing account. Thank you all for attending. Have a good weekend.